Have you ever held a dream so vivid, so alive inside you, yet no one else could see it? They look at you and laugh. They say, "Be realistic." They tell you that imagination doesn't pay the bills, that you should grow up, stop dreaming, and face the real world. But deep inside, something whispers back. What if the dream is the most real thing about me? There are moments when believing in yourself feels like standing alone in the dark, sketching on an invisible canvas. You draw what no one else can see. You believe in colors that haven't appeared yet. And every time you're told it's impossible, that tiny voice inside you, fragile but fierce, refuses to die. This is the story of a man who did exactly that. He was fired for lacking creativity. He went bankrupt more than once. He was mocked for chasing a world that existed only in his sketches. But instead of giving up, he kept drawing, not just on paper, but on his future. Because he believed that someday, the world would step into the dream he saw so clearly. Stay till the end. This story might remind you why your dream is still worth believing in. In the early 1900s, on the quiet streets of Marceline, Missouri, a young boy named Walt spent hours sketching the world around him. While other children chased balls through the fields, Walt chased lines and shapes across sheets of paper. He drew farm animals, trains, and smiling faces, believing that every pencil stroke could bring something magical to life. But the world around him wasn't built for dreamers. His father, a stern and practical man, often shook his head. "Drawing won't feed you, son," he would say. Teachers called him distracted, always lost in imagination instead of arithmetic. To them, Walt wasn't talented, just unrealistic. Still, he couldn't stop. Every night after chores, he'd sit under the dim light of an oil lamp, sketching by hand the stories he saw in his mind. To him, each line was a doorway to another world, a place where animals could talk, laughter could heal, and happiness could be drawn into existence. As he grew older, the gap between his dreams and reality widened. Jobs were scarce, money was tighter, and creativity had no market value. Yet Walt refused to let go of his pencil. Deep inside, he carried one simple conviction. One day, I will make people believe in dreams again. He didn't know how or when or even if the world would listen, but that small-town boy, with nothing more than a sketchbook and stubborn hope, was about to begin a journey that would change the way people saw imagination forever. Years later, in Kansas City, Walt finally found a small job at a local newspaper. He thought it was his first step toward a creative career until one morning, his editor handed him a letter. It read simply, "You lack imagination." Walt stood frozen. The very thing he had poured his heart into, his creativity, was now the reason for his dismissal. As he walked out of the building, the world felt heavier, grayer, smaller. For weeks, he drifted through cheap boarding houses, clutching his sketchbook like a lifeline. He drew on scrap paper, cafe napkins, anything he could find. But every rejection letter, every door that closed, whispered the same cruel message. You're not enough. One night, while sketching in a dim cafe, an older artist sat across from him. A man with ink-stained fingers and eyes that had seen many storms. He looked at Walt's drawings and smiled faintly. "Why do you keep drawing if no one pays you?" he asked. Walt hesitated. "Because I can't stop. When I draw, I feel alive." The man nodded slowly. "Then maybe the problem isn't that they can't see your dream. It's that you're waiting for their permission to believe in it." Those words struck deep. For the first time, Walt realized he didn't need the world to approve his vision. He needed to believe in it enough to build it himself. That night, he made a promise. Not to find a job, but to build a world where imagination could live freely. With borrowed money and a heart full of stubborn faith, he opened a tiny animation studio. And from the edges of his sketchbook, a small mouse began to appear. Cheerful, hopeful, and full of mischief. The little studio Walt started was barely more than a rented garage, a single room filled with pencils, paper, and impossible dreams. The walls leaked when it rained. The equipment broke constantly. But every morning, Walt showed up early, his sleeves rolled up, eyes burning with the same light that had never dimmed since boyhood. He and his small team of animators worked endlessly. They created short films, stories full of laughter and heart, and sold them for pennies just to keep the lights on. But success never lasted. One by one, clients withdrew, investors disappeared, and bills piled high on the table. Still, Walt refused to stop. He believed that if he just kept drawing, something magical would emerge. Then came the cruelest blow. One of his business partners, someone he had trusted, secretly took the rights to his most popular cartoon character and sold it behind his back. Overnight, Walt lost everything: his studio, his employees, his income, and the very character he had created. He boarded a train back to California with only a few dollars in his pocket. The world might have seen a failed artist, but inside, something extraordinary was happening. As the train rattled across the plains, Walt pulled out his sketch pad. He thought about how easily everything could be taken from him: money, company, recognition, but not imagination. Somewhere between those long miles of grief and hope, a small figure appeared on the page. A cheerful mouse with big ears and a mischievous smile. Walt drew him again and again, feeling something stir within. This mouse wasn't just a cartoon, he was a symbol, a reminder that joy can be born even from loss. When he showed the idea to his brother Roy, people laughed. A talking mouse? That'll never work, but Walt smiled. Then we'll make him sing too. For months, he and his team worked in silence. Driven by faith more than resources, they poured their exhaustion and hope into every frame of the short film that would later be called Steamboat Willie. On the night of the premiere in 1928, the theater lights dimmed. The audience watched as the little mouse whistled and danced across the screen, and then something magical happened. They laughed, they clapped, they cheered. Walt stood in the back row, tears in his eyes. For the first time, the world was laughing with him, not at him. But even then, the journey was far from easy. Financial struggles continued. Doubt never disappeared. Yet, through every hardship, Walt carried one truth. Like the bamboo that hides beneath the ground for years before rising tall, faith grows unseen before it blooms. He had planted his dream long ago, and now, at last, it was beginning to reach for the sky. Years later, as Mickey Mouse became a symbol recognized around the world, Walt often looked back on those years of failure with quiet reflection. People called him a genius, a visionary, but he knew better. He knew what it felt like to be laughed at, to be told he wasn't creative, to sleep hungry beside unfinished sketches. And yet, every setback had carried the same hidden message: keep believing. One evening, a young animator asked him, "Mr. Disney, how did you keep going when no one believed in you?" Walt smiled softly. "Because I wasn't drawing for them," he said. "I was drawing for the dream I saw inside me." He had discovered something profound, that dreams are built twice, first in the unseen world of faith, and then in the visible world of effort. The blueprint of every castle, every character, Every joyful smile began as a fragile idea that no one else could see. When people doubted him, he remembered the bamboo, how it spends years growing its roots underground before it ever breaks through the surface. The world may see nothing during that time, but deep beneath, the foundation is forming. Quietly, patiently, powerfully. And that's the same with human dreams. You may think nothing is happening, but faith works in silence. Every day you persevere, every failure you overcome, your roots are spreading deeper, preparing for the moment when you'll rise. Walt's story wasn't just about cartoons or business success. It was about conviction, the belief that imagination, when protected by persistence, becomes unstoppable. "No one can see your dream as clearly as you do," he once said. "That's why it's yours." His dream had survived rejection, bankruptcy, betrayal, and still, it grew. Because dreams that come from the heart are not destroyed by doubt. They're refined by it. And as Disneyland opened years later, filled with laughter, light, and wonder, Walt didn't just see a park. He saw proof. Proof that the world eventually catches up to those who never stop believing. Years passed, and the dream that once lived only on paper became a world you could walk through. Children laughed on spinning teacups. Fireworks bloomed above the castle towers, and music filled the air like the heartbeat of imagination itself. Walt often stood quietly at the edge of Disneyland, watching families smile beneath the evening glow. To others, it was an amusement park, but to him, it was proof that faith can turn drawings into doors and dreams into places where others can finally believe too. He once said, "It all started with a mouse." But behind that simple sentence was a lifetime of courage. The courage to trust what only he could see. Not every dreamer is understood. Some are doubted, others are ignored. But that doesn't mean their vision is wrong. It simply means they've been given the gift of seeing what's not yet visible. So if the world laughs at your dream, let it. If they call you unrealistic, smile anyway. Because believing before seeing is not foolishness. It's faith in its purest form. One day, your persistence will turn whispers into applause, and the world will finally witness what you carried all along. And when that day comes, remember this: dreams don't happen to you. They grow through you. Some people build walls to protect what they know, but dreamers, they build castles in the sky. And when the time is right, the world will look up and finally see them shine. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still holds a dream no one else believes in. Because maybe what they need today is a small reminder that faith and imagination can still change the world. Leave a comment below and tell us, what dream are you drawing right now? We'd love to hear it. And if you'd like more stories like this, tales of hope, courage, and human spirit, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Inspire Through Stories. Keep believing, keep creating, keep drawing your future, because the world needs your imagination.